Sir, thank you very much. I know you're busy. I know you're going crazy. Now, let's get into it. The NYPD has revealed that 25 victims have been shoved in front of the subway cars so far for the year. With 2 months still to go, 2 victims killed, while 20 narrowly avoided death. Now, I'm going to ask, what are you and the governor doing to make people feel comfortable and safe inside the subways and outside the subways?
And, and I'm so glad you said that, David, because, anyone can give you numbers and stats, but the bottom line is, how does one feel? And that's what is important. When I ran for office to be mayor, I stated that I want to make this a safe city in general, but specifically I wanted to deal with gun violence. To date, we're down in double digits in gun violence and in homicide shootings and homicides, and I wanted to focus on the subway system. So if you do an analysis of the last time someone was really counting passenger numbers in 2019 pre-pandemic, when we were all on the trains, our index crimes are lower in 2019, 2018, 2017, and really for the last 10 years, 17% lower. But those numbers don't mean anything if people don't feel safe. And so my goal is to go after what is making people feel unsafe. Do you know, David, we get an average of 6 felony crimes a day, 6 a day in the subway system. We have 3.5 million riders a day. 3.5 million riders with 6 felony crimes. So I got to get rid of those 6 felony crimes. There's so much more we have to do to deal with how people are feeling. Too many people are on the system that's dealing with mental health illnesses. Too many people on the system that are causing disorder. So I'm going to go after those 6 felony crimes. But I want New Yorkers to know that 3.5 million people use our system every day, get to where they need to go every day without any incident at all. I'm going to do my job, 1,000 more new cops on the subway system, got cops back on the trains. We're making sure we have that omnipresence. We're removing people with mental health illness, because I got to make people be actual safe, and I got to make sure they feel safe at the same time.
Sir, now don't you share this responsibility with the governor? Is the governor responsible for inside the subway, and are you responsible for outside the subway? How does it work?
Yeah, the subway system, the state is in charge of the subway system, but it's my role. I'm never going to say the ultimate responsibility of the safety of the people of this city is my responsibility. I want the people of this city safe. And the governor has been an amazing partner. We needed new psychiatric beds. So many people, historically, we were walking past and allowing them, seeing that they needed mental health support. Imagine someone on the subway system, no shoes on, no shirts on 20 degrees weather, yelling, screaming. We were ignoring that. But under my administration, I'm saying, no, we're no longer going to ignore people living on the subway system and encampments. People don't realize, but those encampments are gone. We removed over 2,000 people off our system that were living off the system and put them into mental health facilities or safe havens or some form of housing where they could get the shelter that they deserve. But this is a partnership with the governor, and she has been amazing. Let me tell you, the relationship that the previous administration and governor had, that is not what Governor Hochul and I have. She has been a real partner, and I cannot thank her enough for identifying our subway system must be saved.
Sir, there are places where homeless persons now have been pitching tents, tapping into the electricity from the streets, cooking with gas and electric stoves, and getting heat. In other words, they're turning the streets into their own personal living room. I've got 5 questions for you, sir. First question, what are you doing to move these persons who have now turned the streets and sidewalks into their own personal living room?
Well, let's deal with that question first. If you go earlier in my administration, when I made the determination that we're not going to sit back and allow people to live on the streets in tents and encampments, During the month of January, when I first got elected, I went out into the streets and I visited people who were in cardboard boxes and tents into makeshift houses, and I spoke with them. Dahved, I found people that were bipolar inside those tents and those encampments. People had human waste. People had drug paraphernalia, stale food, dirty clothing. And I said, I'm not going to sit back and act like this is not happening in our city. So we don't permit that. Now, there were some cases where people were living in buildings at sub-levels inside buildings. But on the street, we have a zero tolerance for encampments and tents, tapping into our electricity or other forms of getting heat. We do not allow that in this city, and we have a real initiative. You don't see the number of encampments that you saw in the past, and every time one is identified, we put an operation in place to give the people the housing they need and move them off the street. The law does not allow us to tell people they can't sleep on the street, but you cannot build a housing or encampment on the street. We're not accepting that. That's not allowed.
So where are you moving these persons to? I see that the governor had used hotels to house persons who were displaced by hurricane and tornadoes and fires. Where are we moving these people to?
It's a combination. We've opened 55 emergency shelters, 2 humanitarian relief centers, we call them HURT, one on Randall's Island, another in a hotel called the Row Hotel. And we're finding different places to place people. Unlike other municipalities in New York, we have something called Right to Shelter, but we're fulfilling our legal mandate to give people housing, but also our moral mandate to make sure that we have no one sleeping on the streets if they don't want to. No one has to sleep on the streets in the city of New York, and we are giving them the services they need. And it costs a lot of money to do so, but we have been committed to doing so. And some people, we have to be honest, some people need full wrap-around services. They can't take care of themselves. They are in danger to themselves. They are in danger to others. And we are responding appropriately to make sure they get the services they need so they don't harm themselves, like you saw what happened to Lieutenant Russo, a FDNY employee who was stabbed by a person that was dealing with mental health illness. We need to make sure people who are dealing with these illnesses, a small number, are violent, and we need to make sure they get the services they need before they harm themselves or others.
Sir, number 3, what do you say to persons who have their $1 million homes and have now to face this reality as they walk outside? People are complaining that some condos were being sold the other day, and these condos did not get sold, maybe 25% of the condos, because just around the corner were people setting up these camps. What do you say to persons who spend millions of dollars for their properties but have to walk out into this reality?
Well, it doesn't matter to me if the person is spending millions of dollars or if they live in an area where they have a public housing. No one should have to live in that condition. And if there's a place where someone is setting up tents or encampments, they need to immediately notify our agencies, the Department of Social Services or others, because we don't do that in this city. Other cities tolerate people setting up tents and encampments. We do not do that in this city. I am not going to have a city where people are living in encampments or makeshift houses, cardboard boxes. And so if they see that, they need to let us know so we can take appropriate action to rectify the situation. But also say to people who look down on those high income earners, 51% of our income taxes come from 2% of New Yorkers. If we lose those 2% of New Yorkers, we're going to lose the tax base that actually pays for our teachers, our firefighters, paving our streets, make sure that we have all the services we need. So we need high-income earners, middle-income earners, and low-income earners. That's part of the financial ecosystem that allows the city to run and operate. We need each other, and that is the atmosphere that we must create in this city.
Okay, number 4. It's one thing to deal with this in the summer, but winter is a whole different animal. Is there a different strategy for the winter?
No, the strategy is the same. The strategy is that anyone who needs housing will always find housing. We don't have a record of people who want to be in a shelter or find a bed to sleep in with 3 meals a day and other health care. If a person wants that in this city, they get it. You saw what happened with the migrant and asylum seekers. 21,400 migrant seekers came to this city. Not one person or child had to sleep on the streets because we did not adjust to the needs of people. We're going to fulfill our moral and legal obligation. And at the same time, we're not going to abandon long-term New Yorkers. You know, there were some people who stated, well, you know, you're treating the migrant seekers better. That is just not true. Long-term New Yorkers that are in shelters, they're able to get what's called Phelps vouchers so they can go into permanent housing, because the goal is to place people in permanent housing. And our legal responsibility is to give people a bed to sleep. We go beyond that for everyone. Migrants, asylum seekers, or long-term New Yorkers. We provide health care, 3 meals a day, support, pathway to housing. This city should be proud of what we do when it comes down to people who are in need. No one in this city can go without a meal or go without a place to sleep. It doesn't matter if you're a new arrival as a migrant seeker or if you're a long-term New Yorker who has fallen on hard times. This city is extremely receptive to helping people in need.
Sir, number 5. Are there any guarantees that homes for the homeless will be safe? Because some homeless people feel safer on the streets than inside the shelters.
You know, that's a comment that people have put out in the universe over and over again, and it's just a lie. And, you know, sometimes people tell a lie and they just keep saying it long. No one is safe sleeping on the street in comparison to being somewhere where you're getting 3 meals a day, health care, able to take a shower, clean your clothing, and a bed to sleep on. And that commentary that people put out there where you're safer on the streets, that's just a lie. You're not safer on the street. We saw what happened earlier this year, when a person was shooting innocent people sleeping on the street. You need to be in a place where there's security, where there's someone there to give you the services you desire. And I just refuse to succumb to those who are saying it's safer to sleep on the street. That's a lie. It is not. It's not safer to sleep on the street. It's safer to sleep in an environment that is a controlled environment that can place you on a pathway to housing, that could deal with your mental health illness if you have any, and that will provide you with 3 healthy meals a day, in an environment where you can take a shower and have the basic sanitary things you need. I saw what sleeping on the street is like. And anyone that tells me that it's more appropriate to sleep in a camp with human waste, drug paraphernalia, stale food, dirty clothing, that's safer, I just don't subscribe to that, and I'm not going to accept that.
I got one more for you, sir, that you might be very angry about. What do you say to persons who say that the asylum seekers are being treated better than the citizens? There's housing, food, heat, security that they come with, and sometimes they take the best hotels to allow them to stay there. How do you respond to persons who say that?
Well, first of all, there's no question you could ask me that's going to get me angry, brother, because the truth is the truth. You know, all I have to do is tell the truth. Whomever is saying that we're treating new arrivals better than long-term New Yorkers, I want them to point to me where and how. We have to stop believing just because we say something that is in fact the truth. That is not the truth. Long-term New Yorkers that are in shelters, they have access to permanent housing. Long-term New Yorkers that are in shelter are having the same things that those who are here for just one day. And anyone that's telling you we're treating someone differently based on if they're here for a day or they've been here for 900 days, they're just lying. It's just not a reality. And they tried to make that comparison for those who were living on Randall's Island in the shelters there. They said the people who were living on Randall's Island in the tents were living in a better life. Well, if somebody's on Randall Island in one of the shelters and they prefer to sleep on one of the cots, all they got to do is ask. That's what we call the hurt is not staying there permanently. It was to deal with the high number that we were receiving. It was predicted that we were going to have over 100,000 asylum seekers. We were able to successfully get the Washington, D.C. and the president to do a decompression strategy. The numbers have decreased. The mayor of El Paso, Texas, stated that he won't be sending any more buses here. We responded to the crises that we were facing, and we adjusted, and we did so. Every person who needs housing, needs shelter, is being treated the same way in general, but specifically long-term New Yorkers. And Dahved, think about this for a moment. I took office in January. You know how many crises we faced and navigated our way out of? We had a COVID crisis. No one is talking about COVID anymore because we navigated.
Sir, I got some questions for you about COVID, so I'm coming at you with COVID too. But
yeah,
sir,
we navigated out of it, brother. We navigated out of monkeypox. We navigated out of polio. We navigated out of all of these crises.
Okay, sir, hold on. So, Mayor, let's continue. You know, in some instances, families are arriving on buses sent by the Texas and Arizona governments, and in other cases, it appears that individuals are being sent by the federal government. Is that true? And if they're being sent by the federal government, is the federal government helping?
Well, let's peel that back on both levels. First, the federal government under Biden's administration, they put in place what's called a decompression strategy to make sure that up to 2,400 immigrants that come in or migrant seekers that come in are spread throughout the entire country, not just New York, Chicago, and Washington. And so, of our understanding, there has not been any new migrant seekers coming to New York that the federal government is doing, particularly New York City. They may do something throughout the state, but in New York City, we have not seen that thus far. When it comes down to money, we're saying to the federal government that those who are here, we need the dollars to support what we have spent already. This was potentially could have been $1 billion on taxpayers here in New York. The issues around asylum seekers and migrants, it's a national problem. The national government should pick up the price tag. Let's be clear. We send over $20 billion to Washington every year that we do not get back in in New York State, and that is just not acceptable.
Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. People are still being tested positive, but more of them are living. Is there something you can tell us as we get into the winter months where the common cold is still very dominant?
Well, it's not only the common cold, it's also the flu. There are a number of people that are in my small circle that have contracted COVID. So it's a combination of what we must do. And number one, booster shots. There's a new booster shot out there that is extremely formidable against COVID. We need to take it. COVID is not in our rearview mirror. People need to know that it's still here. But number two, getting vaccinated. Those who are hospitalized, those who are dying, those who have serious illnesses, there's only one common denominator. They're not vaccinated or they don't have the booster shot. So we need to encourage people to do so. But we made a serious decision at the beginning of taking office. We were going to learn to live with COVID. We were going to be smart. We were going to do smart things. We were going to keep our schools open, which was a smart decision. We were going to keep our businesses open. We were not going to close down the city again. Many people pushed back and thought we were doing the wrong thing, but we knew we were doing the right thing. We listened to the medical experts, and we were prepared and didn't panic. And that's how we were able to navigate and get us to where we are. But our success of being able to function as a city was clearly due to the large number of vaccinations and booster shots, and we need to continue to do that.
Sir, let's talk about your health. How are you doing? Is it easier staying healthy as mayor or was it, or is it more difficult staying healthy as mayor?
You know, let me tell you something, David. They say that the mayor of the city of New York is the second most difficult job in politics in America, if not the globe. It is the incoming. Every day, all day, there's something happening in the city. You're dealing with a crisis all the time. It could be a fire like we witnessed in the Bronx. We lost 4 family members. Really heartbreaking story of losing those children and the dad in the fire in the Bronx. Or it could be a shooting, a robbery, someone pushed on the train. It can be a building collapse, an explosion, a terrorist threat. Every day, all day, something is happening. But this is the right time for my style of leadership. It takes discipline. It takes a person that is prepared and not panics and knows how to shift based on the crisis that's in front of us. And based on my years of being a police officer, of responding to crises like 9/11, having a building collapse, having an explosion, a fire, dealing with terrorism, I think all the things that I've done for the last 22 years allowed me for this moment. But it also, my life itself, you know, growing up dyslexic, being arrested, experiencing police brutality, knowing what it is to live on the verge of homelessness. All those things that I've went through prepared me for this moment, because if we're going to have a mayor for this time, it must be a mayor that has gone through a lot so he can help people who are going through a lot. And, you know, I'm just a blue-collar mayor that understands a blue-collar city like New York.
Sir, is it factual, is it true that your mother used to put an extra suitcase or a bag just in case you had no place to stay, that you will have your clothes with you?
No, what she used to do for all of my 5 siblings and me, she will all have a garbage bag, a Glad bag full of clothing that we carried with us to school, because Mom thought we were going to be thrown out. And she did not want us to be embarrassed by not having a change of clothing. She was an amazing woman that came from the spirit of so many of our mothers that never surrendered. You know, you think about some of our mothers either from the continent of Africa or from the south part of the country or from the Caribbean diaspora. Those mothers were amazing. They were hardworking, did anything and everything they did to survive. You know, I'm who I am because of her. You know, I lost her last year, but I still feel her energy and spirit. She poured into me that desire. Never give up, and I think it's because of her energy and spirit that I was able to overcome all the obstacles, become the mayor of the most important city in the most important country on the globe. So she prepared us for hard times, and she said, listen, you know, life is hard. If you are fortunate to live long enough, you're going to be misfortunate to experience pain. Turn pain into purpose. In a dark moment, it's not a burial, it's a planting. And you make the decision if it's a burial or planting. And I always felt that everything I went through was a planting. And this is the fruits of those harvests right now.
Sir, last time you were here, we talked about bikes taking over the streets by some New Yorkers and more upset with all the electric bikes and gas bikes now and scooters, not only on the streets, but on the sidewalk. Winter, more people are going to be getting deliveries. What do you say now to all the stuff that's on the sidewalk, the bikes, the scooters, the battery-operated stuff? What do you say to that?
Well, number one, we have to redefine our streets in the city. We announced today that we made 1,000 intersections safer for the people of the city. We wanted to do 1,000, but we actually did 1,200. We're going to come down to, by the end of the year, we believe we're going to do 1,400.
Okay.
By redesigning our streets, it saves lives. People are dying from traffic fatalities. Although we are seeing a decrease in pedestrian, we're seeing a higher number of those who are driving vehicles because of reckless driving. And so we need to now define our streets as user-friendly for everyone. And that includes people who ride bikes, those who ride scooters. They need to be in the right lanes to do so and not on our sidewalks. We have done an entire initiatives around ATVs and illegal dirt bikes because they have basically taken over our streets in a legal fashion. We have zeroed in on that. People should have the right to live in a city that is not out of control, not filling with disorder. It should be a place where it's safe. And everyday law-abiding New Yorkers should have a right to do so. And you know what I noticed over these last few years, Dahved? We've paid more attention on those who break the law instead of those who follow the law. And I'm just going to be a mayor that's going to look at the law-abiding citizens. Everybody's talking about how do we do right things for people who commit crimes. How about doing the right things for people who don't commit crimes? That's what my focus is. People who follow the law, who work hard, who wake up every day, pull the gate up in front of their shop, sweeps up, spend 14, 15 hours and provide for their families. And they should not be the victims of crimes, the victims of assault, the victims of larceny, the victims of those who spend all day trying to figure out how they're going to hurt innocent people in this city and really in this country. I'm just going to be a person as a mayor to focus on the innocent, good people of this city. And that includes making sure that people that ride the streets on a bike, on a motorcycle, in a car, that they're not hurting innocent people of this city.
Sir, people hearing you might say that, well, you're putting a lot of effort into the people who do good. But what kind of effort are you going to put into persons who do bad, a person who's done something wrong and then is able to walk out of jail and then come and do it again? What are you going to do about those people?
People should be given second chances. I was given a second chance. I was arrested as a child, but I took advantage of the second chance. But I don't want to hear that, your second chance can't be 13 chances. I mean, we got people who are arrested for burglary 13 times. We have people who are arrested for robbery 8 or 9 times. People who are caught with a gun on Monday get out on Tuesday and have another gun on Wednesday. That's just not acceptable. I'm not going to be a person that tells individuals who have made up their mind that they're going to inflict violence on innocent people, that we're going to just keep turning our backs and say, because you didn't get hugged enough as a child that you have the right to create violence on people. No, you'll get a second chance. But darn it, don't look for no 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chances. That's just not acceptable. If you make your mind up that, hey, I want to live my life and learn from my mistakes, we're going to make sure we're there for you. What does that look like? We have a program called Block Power. It is teaching those who are justice involved or have been part of the criminal justice system. We're teaching the trades of green jobs, and we're giving them jobs so that they can go into those jobs. We're spending millions of dollars doing so. In our Department of Probation in the city, those young people who are justice involved, we're connecting them with mentors so that they can get the support that they need. We are on Rikers Island with great programs teaching young people on Rikers Island on how, when you get out, that you can go and become employed or get back in school. So we're leaning into opportunities for those who make a mistake. But if you don't make up your mind that you can't continue to inflict violence on innocent people, then I'm not going to sit back and apologize for you or allow you to continue to do so. That's not acceptable. We're going to be there for you when you're willing to turn your life around. Or when you are not willing to turn your life around, then you know what? There's something called a prison ministry, just as something called a ministry that'll help people to turn their lives around.
Sir, I remember when you just became mayor, you were very concerned about the people who you put around you. Remember, you were being criticized by trying to hire your own brother. I've got a question for you. This is my last question. When you heard what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, what is the first thing that went through your mind?
It's really disturbing. A lot of people don't know when you place yourself on the front line and decide that you're going to be a public official, which is a very difficult job, very demanding job. I decided to run. My brothers, my sisters, my cousins, my nieces, my nephew, they didn't decide that. And sometimes we loop our families into the danger of being a elected official. You look at elected officials who were shot and injured. Look at elected officials who have been assaulted. What happened to Speaker Pelosi's husband. It's just unfortunate. And we're dealing with people who, some of them are dealing with mental health issues. Some of them are just dealing with everyday anger. And being an elected official is not an easy job. I can't tell you how many times I miss birthdays of my son, little league practices, graduations, because I'm dealing with another crisis. You know, early this morning I was dealing with the crisis of what happened in the Bronx. But this is what I signed up for, and I accept that. But Nancy Pelosi's husband did not sign up for that. He did not sign up for someone to go into his home with a hammer and attack him. That is just unfortunate when people do things like that. And my heart goes out to her and her husband. I think she's an amazing leader. But we should keep that in mind, that I was elected to be the mayor, and I have to take all of the negative fallout that people want to throw at me. But my brother was not elected. My sisters, my nieces, and my nephews, they were not elected. They want to live their lives, and they should be able to do so. I'll take what comes with being a mayor. They should not have to come with that, just as Nancy Pelosi's husband should not have had to have come with the violence that he saw inflicted on him.
Sir, thank you very much for your time. Last words are on you, sir.
I love every moment being the mayor of the city of New York. I'm making real impacts on the lives of people. I think about what we're doing as a young man that, I'm dyslexic, and I remember how I was betrayed. Now we're doing dyslexia screening for every young person in our Department of Education, so we don't have 30% of our inmates being dyslexic. I'm just pleased on what we're doing with foster care children. They used to age out at 21 without the support. We have something called Fair Future that allows them to age out at 26, and we're now allocating $15,000 a year for those foster care children who go to college with a daily stipend so they can get the support that they need so they don't end up homeless or the victims of crime or participating in crime. Earn income tax credit. First time in over 20 years, we got an increase in money going back to families. NYCHA, we have what's called the NYCHA Land Trust. Many mayors have tried to do it, but we were able to accomplish it. Child care. Child care was causing many mothers and women to stay home. Now we're able to secure a substantial amount of money to make sure that we made child care affordable. When you look at the things that we have been doing under this administration, first African-American to be the police commissioner, first woman to be the fire commissioner, first mayoralty that had 5 deputy mayors that were women, first Latino to head the Department of Correction, first Korean to be the commissioner of small business services. We came into this administration with a sledgehammer to shatter all glass ceilings. And when you do that, people are going to attack you and criticize you. But, all I can say is that this is an Esther 4:13 moment. I believe that scripture is. God made me for such a time like this. I didn't come to City Hall just to go along and get along. I came to City Hall to do like Matthew 21:12, to turn the table over as Jesus did in the temple when they were doing wrong. I'm the mayor to turn things over. We need a new city to do some different things to end the inequality and make sure that people finally get a fair share. I'm just one of your listeners. There's nothing special about me, man. I am perfectly imperfect. I'm just this cat that's doing the best he can in the city that's the best city on the globe. I'm just rocking you.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good night. Have a good sleep. And get ready for tomorrow.
You got it. Take care, brother.
Thank you very much. Caribbean Fever 107.5 WBLS, Dahved Levy rocking you.